and lecturer for today, is which is named Aisal and today. And for this video lecture, I will be discussing with you about verbs. So first, before we delve into the main topic for today, we are first going to define the word verb. So verbs are words that show an action, occurrence, or state of being. So we have here three examples that matches the verb that shows an action, which is singing. The second example is the verb that shows occurrence, which is develop, and the last one is verbs that show the state of being, which is exist. So these verbs are practically identified by something that is done physically or a voluntary a voluntary action that is done innately, and sometimes something or a process that we do which can which is described as occurrence. So before we delve into or before we further understand this part of speech, I want you to identify or have a simple exercise about identifying or naming the action that is done by an object. So in this slide, we have here five five we have here five photos that performs different actions, and your task is to include or name or write the action that is being performed by the object in the photo. So I will be giving you 10 seconds to write your answer in a separate sheet of paper. Your time starts now. Okay, so time's up, and I hope you've already written your answers. So for the first photo we have here, the answer is walking. The second action that is being done in the second photo is reading. The third action is dancing. The fourth one is crying. And the last one is jumping. So I hope that you can already, and I am happy that you are now able to identify an action or provide an action word that corresponds to the action or the thing that is being performed by the object in the photo. So for the main topic or the main lesson for this video lecture, we will now be discussing about the types of verbs. So we have three types of verbs, namely action verb, helping verb, and linking verb. So for the first type of verb, we have action verb. And action verbs or words that describes the action the subject of the sentence performs. It often answers the question, what is the subject doing? So we have here several examples, and I want you to first look at the one that I'm pointing, the first one, which is Emerson sleeps with his cat. So you've already learned in the lesson that you've taken about the uses of nouns that a noun used as a subject answers or is that someone or something that is being talked in the sentence. So the first one, who is being talked in the sentence, and we can say that it is Emerson. So in this lesson, I'm going to teach you to identify the action verb by the question, what is the subject doing? And so our subject is Emerson, so we are going to replace the word subject in the question I've provided you with. So what is Emerson doing? So he sleeps. So the action verb in the first example is sleeps. So the next one is she is our um, she is our subject, and what is she doing? She eats. The next one is he is our subject. What is he doing? He ran. The next one, I know that you already know who the subject is, which is the cat. And what did the cat do? Cry. And the last one is the police. And what did the police do? They caught the burglar. So I hope that you already know how to identify the action verbs, and action verbs has two types, which are the transitive and intransitive verbs, transitive rather, and intransitive verbs, and we're first going to talk about transitive verbs. So, transitive action verbs are verbs that take an object, which means that they include the receiver of the action in the sentence. So, if you can recall or remember the topic or the discussion that you've done with the uses of nouns, transitive verbs are action verbs that are used in the sentences that consist direct object. So if we are going to see or we are going to study the first example, which is a person sleeps with his cat, we are going to highlight or identify the subject that we've already identified a while back in the sentences I provided you with in the last slide. And for this one, we have here our son, she, and the police. So we are now going to try to identify the direct object. So I will be using the green pen to highlight the direct object. So in the uses of nouns, you've discussed about using the question for what or for whom was the question being done, or whom or what is being affected by the action that the subject does. So in this in the first example, Everson sleeps with his cat. Whom or what does Everson sleeps with? And the answer is his cat. Therefore, his cat is the direct object. Same as true with the second one. Who is she eating with, or who does she eat with? It's her mother. And the last one is who did the police caught, or who did the police caught, and that is the burglar. So that are, if you can notice, how each of the sentences that I've written or I've given under transitive verbs are sentences that includes the direct object. So for you to further understand the comparison or the difference of transitive and intransitive verb, I am going to discuss with you intransitive verbs. So intransitive verbs are verbs that doesn't require a direct object or does not require a receiver of the action. So from the from the examples itself, you can clearly see the difference of sentences that uses transitive and intransitive verbs. However, I want you to take note that in the intransitive verb, how short the sentences may seem, they are a complete thought or they are a complete sentence. They delivers a message even by using two words. So in here, we can clearly see the subject, which I am going to highlight, which are he, the cat, and she. However, as you can see here in the transitive verb, we have labeled words. We have labeled the direct object, and you can see that there is no direct object, or there is no receiver of the 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 action being done by the subject. For example, we're going to ask who or whom or what did he run to, and we cannot see any information in here that can answer the question that is supposed to help us to identify the direct object. Therefore, transitive, I hope that you can now differentiate the transitive and intransitive action verbs. So take a note of the differences that I've said or discussed, and for you will be using that to answer the following activity that I've already included in the module. That is the try this that follows the discussion about the intransitive verb. So please take time to answer that one for you to further understand our topic. So our next one is Next type of helping um, Next type of verb is helping verb. So helping verb is a verb that is used with another verb in a verb phrase. So in here you can see that a verb that is used in with another verb, which means that sentences that uses helping verbs have um, has not only one verb but have two verbs. So helping verbs are also called auxiliary verbs, which are used to help in showing the tense, the possibility, or the time of the main verb. So, for you to easily, find or identify what is the helping verb in the sentence, please take note or bear in mind that main verbs are often the action verbs in the sentence. So, we are now going to follow the process that I've already introduced a while back. We are first going to identify the subjects in the sentences. So, I'm sorry for how crooked my lines were. I'm not that good in maintaining a straight line. So, please bear with me and please do not be distracted. So, we have here princess. Second example, we have the subject Rachel, he, I, and Shane. Now, if we are going to identify the main verb, which I'll be using a yellow orange to highlight for us to not be confused with the color, um, we are going to use a color coded type of lines for us to further understand the lesson. So for the first one, princess is doing what? She, princess, is eating. And Rachel is doing what or is in what state? Prepared. He is what? Walking. I am what? Prepared. And she can what? Drive. So here are the main or main verb of the sentences, which are often action verbs that can be performed physically. So next one that we are going to do is to identify the helping verb in the sentence. So another tip for you to easily identify the helping verb in the sentence is to remember that the helping verb always comes first before the action verb. So first one is pretty easy because there is only one word that is not underlined, so which means that is in the first example is the helping verb. Same as true with most of the example. As I've already talked a while back, it is the word that comes before the main verb. So if the prepare is the main verb in the second one, then will is the helping verb, and same as true with the third, fourth, and fifth examples, which includes was, am, and can as their helping verbs. So, as what I've told a while back, helping verbs are used to help in showing the tense of or the state of being of the main verb. So, in the first three one, is, will, and was, this shows the tense or the time of the action being done. So in the first one, we can see there is, which is a present tense, which means that it is currently occurring or currently happening. The second example, excuse me, used will, which means that the action will be done in the future tense or will be done in the future. And the third example used the word or the verb was, which means that it is done probably earlier than it is done earlier, and it is a past in past tense. So in the fourth example, which is the I am prepared, this shows the state of how or what, on what state is the main verb in. So, I am prepared to confront him. The subject is now prepared to confront him. So, in the last one, this helping verb is used to show or help show the possibility of the main verb being done. So she can drive big cars. So another tip that I've already included in your module is the fact that can, must, may, and might not or cannot type of verbs or the verbs are that are mentioned a while back are called modal verbs. So modal verbs are helping verbs that is used or are used to show possibility. So take a note of what I am discussing because this might be included in your quiz or activity. So just like how I included a short review for the action verb, I have included another set of exercise for you to finish in the module. So finish that one and write it in a separate sheet of paper. So last one or last type of verb is linking verb. So linking verbs are verbs that don't show an action but rather describe the subject. So linking verbs are verbs that links the subject in the word that follows or in the word that modifies the subject further. So this one is okay, so in this one, words in the if in the transitive verb we are finding the um direct object use of noun, in here we are utilizing the subjunctive or the subjective complement use of noun. So in here we can see that happy describes our subject. So further describes, so our subject is Robert and happy is the description of our subject. Now, the verb here is appears, and appears is a linking verb which links or further connects Rob, our subject to the predicate or the subjunctive or the subjective complement. So the next example is Karen is sick. So our subject in here is Karen. We already know how to identify subjects, so I hope you're following the discussion. And our subjunctive complement or our subjective complement in this is sick. So what is the linking verb or what connects Karen to being sick? It is the word is. So I want you to independently do the three more examples, and I am going to um, underline them without explaining that much because I know that you are already following through. So our subject in here is he, and our subjective complement is tired, which makes seems as our linking verb. So the subject in the fourth one is I, and the subjective complement is confused or confused describes. Sorry for the line, just let me redo that one. Confused is the being of the subject, and the subjective or the linking verb that is used is am. And the last example, the subject of the last example is they, and the subjective complement or the word that is used to describe our subject is noisy. Therefore, we can say that the linking verb that is used is the word or the verb were. So I want you to take another tip or another trivia that is also included in your module. I hope you're browsing your module as we discussed. So linking verbs can easily be identified from auxiliary verbs if they can be interchanged or they can be changed into is or are and the thought still counts. So for example, Karen, for the last one, they were noisy. If we were to change the word were into are and it still shows a complete and correct thought, thought or sentence, then that is a linking verb. So the third one, which used um, a regular verb and can often be seen as a helping verb, he, let's change the seems into is. Just It's going to change seem into is. And if you are going to disregard the seems and read he is tired, it is still a complete sentence, same as true with the first one. Robert is happy. You can clearly see how we can interchange or change the linking verbs or the regular verbs that are used as linking verbs into is or be verbs and still stand and it still is a complete and correct. So that is our discussion for um, today, the video lecture, and I hope you learned something. So all you have to do now, or all that is left for you to do now, is answer the learning activities that I've prepared for you in your activity notebook and do your best to understand or show the knowledge that you've accumulated through the module and through this video lecture. And those activities were created um, those activities were created solely to gauge your learning and understanding of our topic. So thank you for listening and I hope you learned something today.